Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, this is a platform for us as veterans, combat veterans, sponsors, supporters, volunteers, family members to get on here and kind of talk about how life is dealing, what's going on, and how we look at life, how it approaches us, and all the different things. I got JB Brown on deck. He is my co-host, chef, and Coast Guard vet, world-renowned chef, and he's on deck to be here and go over a lot of different things as well. But hey, our signal kind of dropped off a second there. But hey, my guest today is Brett Ross, really good buddy of mine. We go way back to Wounded Warrior Battalion West, going through a lot of processes together, healing processes, combat vets, veterans, went and we collected them all on Camp Pendleton at the Wounded Warrior Battalion West in San Diego, and really kind of put together a really good process program for us to kind of transition out. So Brett's going to get into a story. He's going to tell a lot of really cool stories, and we have a lot of history together too. So there's going to be some incredible stuff to kind of go over. So Brett Ross, thanks a lot for being on deck, brother. United States Marine Corps, and now law enforcement. And so there's a lot of really cool history, a lot of really cool pathways that you've taken to get into. So maybe let's start back in the beginning in the Marine Corps and the motivation behind that, and some great stories behind that too, brother. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I started off in the Marine Corps. I was a scout, first LAR. Absolutely loved that job. Of course, every Marine will probably tell you that they had the best job in the Marine Corps. I'm no different. I believe that. Absolutely loved being a scout to my corps, and got to do a lot of really cool stuff in Iraq. Everything that a Marine could ever wish to do in combat, I got to do it. So I have no complaints there. Was in a couple of large-scale offensive actions on cities, mainly the Operation Rivergate, Operation Steel Curtain, to take the cities of Haditha and Barwana and Husayba and Al-Qaim. So that was a lot of fun. Got to do a lot of cool stuff, scary stuff, but had the time of my life just being a Marine. From there, let me back up. So on my first deployment, after my first deployment, everybody gets to talk to, they send everybody through a psych before you're coming home. And like everybody at that time, this isn't SOP now, but the platoon sergeant normally would tell you guys, hey, don't say anything to the psych. Don't tell them anything. And I complied with that, and went into the site, said, hey, nothing's wrong with me, everything's, all systems are go, blah blah blah. Somehow they saw through me, and they said, hey, this Marine's got some issues. So I come back to the battalion. They said, hey, you need to go see division site. I did. They pulled my weapons card, and they were like, you're not going back. And I was really, like any Marine would be, heartbroken, absolutely destroyed. So I said, hey, who can I talk to about this? I'm going back to Iraq no matter what. Lieutenant said, hey, it's a done deal. You're not doing it. I said, well, can I talk to somebody above you? And they said, well, you can request mass. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. How do I do that? And he said, well, all you got to do is say the words. I said, well, I'm going to request mass to the sergeant major. I did. Sergeant major was an old guy, got in tail end of Vietnam. And I talked to him. He said, hey, why do you want to go back? I said, well, every Marine wants to lead Marines in combat. That's like the pinnacle of being a Marine, right? So he liked that answer, said, hey, if you turn in those pills that the site gave you, you can go back. And I did. But he said if I stayed in my barracks room longer than 30 seconds, that I was done. I grabbed the pills, went back, gave those back to the division psych, and I went back to second tour. Don't necessarily recommend that to anybody out there. If they're having problems, highly recommend talking about it. It sucks. I don't regret my decision, but at the same time, I didn't do myself any favors. Go back to Iraq, come back. They put me in a non-deployable unit because I didn't sign up for another 4 years yet, and they were trying to get new bodies in the battalion. That unit recognized there was something different about me, and they started the roll to Wounded Warrior Battalion, where I met you, Chief.
Right. And Wounded Warrior Battalion, again, is for wounded, ill, and injured. It really started to collect, and that was really hard during those times because Marine Corps units were so used to taking care of their own that they really had a hard time giving up their Marines in order to get help. But they had to, that the battalion was really designed and built for the purpose so that the unit can function without the Marines that they have to take care of, and they can do it from afar. So they still belong to their unit, but they went to Wounded Warrior Battalion West as a, TAD in excess to be able to get help and care and move forward in a different pathway.
Yeah. And at the time when I got to Wounded Warrior Battalion, it was only combat vets. They hadn't started rolling in the
wounded, ill, the ill and injured.
Yeah. And
right.
Shortly after I got there, they started rolling those in, and I was confused, man. I at that time, nobody really knew what PTSD was. Nobody ever heard of a TBI. And so found out through the processes that the Marine Corps had set up at Wounded Warrior Battalion, thank God, that I had a TBI and a pretty good one, and that I had PTSD, and I still did not understand what PTSD was.
Right. And that was definitely a confusing time. A lot of things were kind of coming out, and it's got a lot of names. It's had a lot of names through, from the beginning of battles to shell shock in Vietnam to all kinds of different names. Yeah. And you can name it all the way through, but what was being done about it was also kind of a slow start, right? Even at the battalion, we didn't have necessarily the psych all built up. There's a lot of problems at the battalion, trying to manage this whole big monster. Matter of fact, I think we lost 4 or 5 different Marines to suicide within the first 2 years of the battalion being stood up, just because this is where things were getting really kind of crazy. And these are guys that are, catastrophically, lost their unit. They've lost their function, their purpose, their abilities to do, the things that they were doing. They're no longer a Marine to be a Marine. They're in the uniform, but they no longer are functioning as that unit that they're no longer the Superman that they used to be. And that's how I felt as well. I was like, hey, I was just in the fight, and now I'm like fightless. Shrapnel to my leg, shrapnel to my thigh, shrapnel everywhere. I got a hernia. I got all this other stuff. I'm no longer able to do the job that I used to be able to do as a full functioning corpsman. Now I'm a patient / staff member. You were a patient going through the process. Go ahead, Ross. You can talk more about it.
Yeah, that was rough. It was a heavy atmosphere when I got there, because the battalion had just lost a sergeant. Sure you remember that, Chief. And that was, I could feel the atmosphere was different. People that knew that sergeant, I didn't know him, unfortunately. I heard he was one of the best, and wish I got to know him, but it had definitely changed the atmosphere. It was really hitting guys that this is the aftermath of what we had done, coming down from that high point of being Marines in combat. And that was hard for a lot of people, realizing that we were on that, what they thought of as a downhill slope, And what I now know is the uphill slope in the battle against this. And I was no different. I was like, I'm on a downhill slope. This is the end of my life. I had a lot of trouble. But at the same time, one of the things that Wounded Warrior Battalion had that no other unit had is you were literally surrounded by heroes. Like the heroes of the Marine Corps were there. I met 2 Medal of Honor recipients while I was there. I met uh, recipients of the Navy Cross, multiple Silver Star recipients, Bronze Star recipients. I mean, you're surrounded by the baddest dudes that literally ever walked this earth. And they had access to tools that I didn't know existed, that none of us knew existed before that. And we all had a shared hardship. And it provided, whether we knew it or not, an atmosphere to begin the healing. And we didn't know what that healing was going to look like. We didn't know what was in for us. And sometimes we didn't see that we're even healing at the time. But even on our off hours, we were talking about stuff. And I found myself in the smoke pit talking about our issues and finding that healing in the smoke pit there. Just our common interest of being Marines and our common bond of being in combat as Marines. And it was
and the healing process together, healing together.
yes.
And I think Tim Maxwell is known as the grandfather of the Wounded Warrior Regiment, and the reason why the Battalion West and East were born. He said, hey, he went to the commandant when the commandant said, hey, what do you need to do? Because he was blown up and he was dealing with a lot of stuff. And he said, what do we need to do to help these Marines? We need to heal together. We need to move forward together, and pulling everybody together to do that. I think we really got to be part of something that was really incredible. And at the time, like you said, that made a huge point. You don't know what healing looks like, because when you're trying to heal in these processes, especially as this battalion was growing, staff, patient alike, the culture of the Marine Corps changing, its idealisms within that battalion to deal with the situations at hand. Everybody's individual situation was different. It's not everybody's going to the gas chamber today, everybody's going to the range today. It just doesn't work that same direction, because everybody's individual needs are so different that the Marine Corps had to learn how to adapt and overcome again and deal with all these situations. And we as Marines and sailors that had to heal there, we had to adapt and overcome to find our pathways, our passions, and our direction to do that. And it's incredible to know you and to see where you've gone with that. And go ahead and just keep going your story and get into some of the the transition and how difficult those things were for you, and some of these things. Just an incredible story you got, Brett. Continue.
Yeah. So on the transition, my transition, and anybody out there listening to this that's getting out of the military, some people, they got out and they started that transition and it wasn't working. And unfortunately, they quit. And they either took their life or they just said, I quit. I'm not trying this anymore. I'm just broken. There's some individuals like myself that refuse to quit. And I'll tell you, this was a 10-year journey to find my way. It took me 10 years to do, more than 10 years to do a proper transition into the outside. And there was a fight along the way. I had some ups and downs. I went through a divorce. After going through a divorce, I found a new woman that wanted to get to know me, and she wanted to be there for me. I'm still married to her to this day. And if I didn't have her, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. But right after we met, we had a child, and we got married. within a year of having our newborn child and getting married, we lost everything we owned to a hurricane. That's pretty difficult on somebody that is still struggling with transition, that is trying to support a new marriage and a new child. And that was a rough spot. And like I said, if you're having trouble out there, do not quit. Just refuse to quit. Get it out of your brain, because you just keep working at it. Keep working the problem, like we do in the Marine Corps. What do? We just keep working the problem until we solve it. And having that mentality ended up where I am today, being a police officer and SWAT and sniper. I never would have thought 15 years ago that this is where I'd be. I thought I'd be dead, honestly. And it was just because I didn't quit. So keep working the problem. If you're out there and you're struggling and you're hearing this, keep working the problem. Find a way that works for you. And transition doesn't look the same for all of us.
That's right.
But
everybody's different.
yeah,
Don't stop before the miracle happens. You know, when
yes,
you wake up one day and you realize that it's okay to not be okay, and I'm going to be okay by not being okay, and I'm still going to live today. I'm still going to be a product of society,
yep,
and that's a really good feeling, kind of being in that position, because for so long you beat yourself up because you can't do what you used to do, and are you ever going to be able to do something good? And now look at you. I mean, you're a SWAT sniper. I mean, that's a great achievement. I
Huge.
wouldn't
yeah.
want to do
And
that.
Yeah, and you participated in a lot of warrior groups with me. Jim Gallardi started this. He was my mentor. You got to be mentored by him. 4-time Purple Heart
yes,
guy from Vietnam, sniper as well. 8541. That's a MOS that's no longer in existence, and it went out of existence. And then obviously the snipers are no longer utilized in the Marine Corps as well, or in any service, but they're still so necessary in society. And you just graduated that sniper school, and you got to reconnect with Jim Gallardi recently and do some really cool, talks and stuff. Talk about that, Ross. Talk about what it means to you to be where you're at right now and what you're doing with all that.
it has huge meaning because, like I said, I didn't know where my transition was going to lead me. I just knew I wasn't going to quit. Like I said, I got out 15 years ago. It took me 15 years to get on my feet. And as you're transitioning, I kept asking myself questions like, how is this going to help me in the future? How can I use these experiences and these weak spots that I have to my advantage? It turns out, once I become a police officer, I've talked a number of people out of suicide. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not have all the experiences that I had. And so I'm using those experiences and those things, that the darkest spots of my life, to my advantage now, helping people, young people that it makes me weep at night thinking of how young these people are, and that they're on the verge of suicide. A number of them have found my wife out in town and say, "Hey, your husband saved my life." That is one of the most rewarding experiences I could ever have. Is making an impact on somebody to just keep going, to find their stride and keep going. And I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do if I didn't have these experiences behind me. And I'm going out there into the community, talking to young folks any chance I get. I do this thing that I call 30-second mentorship. So anytime I have an interact with somebody on a stop, as we know, there's issues between police officers and sometimes the minority community, how they feel that we perceive them, and how we perceive that they feel about us. I'll do this, what I call 30-second mentorship, on a traffic stop, and and I'll I'll say, if it's a minority, young minority, I'll say, hey, what are your plans for the future? You want to go to college? You want to trade? What do you want to do? And they'll be like, oh man, it completely changes the attitude on that traffic stop. And they'll say, oh man, I want to do this, that, and the other. And a lot of times I'll bring up the military. Have you thought about the military? It's a great head start in life. It's gotten me places. It could be for you. And they completely change attitudes about things. And it helps me in 30 seconds, helps me change, both how they feel, but also how they think about their future. Because if I change the lives of 100 people over 20 years, I've changed the lives of thousands, because that's going to lead to their kids. Let's say they have 2 kids apiece, 100 people, 2 kids. Well, there you got 300 people that I've affected. And then those people have kids. I'm trying to affect a generational change in behavior and how they think about life and their future. So, like I said, I had a kind of a rough childhood. I can see some things on the street that other officers may not necessarily see. I can see the direction people are going, and hopefully I can change their course by just talking to them. And a lot of times I won't give them a ticket. I'll just give them that 30-second mentorship, give them the warning, and get out of there, and hope that they think about it the next day.
Nice.
They do. They will.
Yeah. Hey, and you talked about and I'll let Chef ask you some questions, but you talked about how important it is for you to not only just mentor them, but even in your department, you become kind of a resource because of certain situations. Obviously, everybody's dealing with PTSD, and the stigma has always been like, once you have it, you can no longer carry a gun. And you're obviously proving that wrong by being a police officer that has a force multiplier, and being able to deal with it in a way that's proper, because you got that post-traumatic growth. And we spent some time talking about that. General Mattis pumps that out. He's made that a huge statement in the past. That's such an incredible thing. So talk about why that mentorship is not only important to those that you pull over, but also within your department. You have so many cool things. So, and then
as everybody can imagine, that we go through some pretty traumatic experiences regularly on a police department. In the past year, I've had to do CPR on several dying people, dying of overdoses, and we come across kids that are car wrecks, all different types of situations, and I've had the privilege. I'm a sell it like that. The privilege of having terrible experiences in my past, but I've also had the privilege of learning how to process those situations in a healthy manner. So, as a police officer around other police officers that may not have ever gotten the chance, because once you join the police department, you're usually there for 10 or 20 years. A lot of people, they end their career at 10 years or so, just because they can't take any more of the trauma. I've had the privilege of having a 10-year span of growing and understanding how to deal with trauma that they have never gotten to have. So that it's just, they're learning as they go. And now I can, like you said, Chief, a force multiplier, I can sit down with these officers and say, hey, I know how you feel about this situation. Here's how I've dealt with things in the past. Maybe it'll help you out. And if I can prolong a few careers of people that are actually good for the community to be out there on the street and prolong their careers to help another 100 people, like I'm trying to do, you can change the community in a big way, in a positive way. And so trying to help these guys and gals getting through these tough situations, and understanding it's normal to feel the way they do, and they're allowed to feel that, and they're also allowed to talk about it. It changes perspectives on things, And if police officers, I'll put this out there, if police officers weren't allowed to be police officers because they had PTSD, you wouldn't have any police officers in the United States. You wouldn't have any left, because that's part of the job, is traumatic experience. That's something you can't dodge that. There's only 900,000 police officers in the United States. And these 900,000 police officers police 350 plus million people. That's a hard job. That's a hard job. So you're talking far less than 1% of the population. I mean, far less. And the amount of traumatic experiences you're going to experience on the job as a police officer or a firefighter or EMS worker is astronomical. And if we can keep these guys and gals healthy and on the street a little bit longer and helping people, we can change the attitude of Americans as well as what they think about PTSD.
Definitely.
Make a difference.
Chef, you got anything for him before we kind of have him close out?
Brett, I applaud you for using your life experiences in what you've overcome. A lot of people don't realize that when you go in the service, most people that go in the service have a servant heart, and you're of service to your fellow comrade. Your life depends on him, and his life depends on you, and there's no other servitude that's any higher than that. And I applaud you for that. Now you have that servant heart in the community, like you said, some of the things that you've done, and you're a pillar to people to look at and see you can make it, you can overcome, and that's what's so important, is you're making a difference every day, and that's what I want to do in my life. I work with a lot of community services and stuff, and I want to make a difference. And I told God a long time ago, you keep me living, I'll make a difference for you, and that's the way it is. So, Brett, I applaud you. Sometime I'd like you to come back on the show. We'll have you again, and we'll talk again. There's always life experiences out there. You just gotta live.
Can I add just
Brett,
one more thing?
Yeah. I definitely am going to have you throw in some stuff real quick. First, say whatever you're going to say. Also, it's New Year's. Give that safety brief. And I know Marines know how to give good safety briefs, so we're going to have you do that because, hey, here we are, man. It's a perfect opportunity. You're out there doing duty. Your guys are going to be on duty this week, so make sure you give that good safety brief. So, any last words, brother? Go ahead.
So one thing before we end this, I want to thank you and Jim Gallardi out there. One of the most rewarding experiences in my life is to go from where you guys originally met me and to where I am today, and come back and say, hey, I want you to see me now. And you and Jim have been the best mentors any Marine could ever ask for. And I want to thank both of y'all, because y'all made some of the most impact towards my recovery out of anybody. And I just want to thank you for that. Secondly, safety brief. It's New Year's coming up. Don't go out there drunk driving. There's no excuses anymore. You've got Lyft. You've got all these other avenues. Friends, you've got Lyft. You got what's the other rideshare service out there? Taxis. There's taxis out there. There's no excuses to be out there on the road drinking or driving. Us police officers, save us the traumatic experiences dealing with dead bodies. There's children in these cars that are traveling on this road. None of us want to see it. We don't want you to end up in this situation either. None of us take pride in arresting drunk drivers. We take pride on helping our community, but dealing with drunk drivers on the road is not one of those things that we like to do. So if you're out there, just be safe. Also, call somebody if you have help. Alcohol is something that I see in this profession especially with young warriors that have been through war and traumatic experiences. Alcohol is a huge trigger for you guys. Start to understand that. Be safe. If you're having an issue, call somebody. For God's sakes, call somebody and let them know. And just go out there, be good humans, and help your community, and just make the world a better place, please.
Hey, thanks, Brett. I appreciate you. Hey, if you need to get a hold of Brett, if you want to get a hold of him, you could definitely do it through me. If there's anything else, I want to turn it over to Chef. He's got a couple announcements to make, and then we're going to close this out. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of Brett Ross, definitely do it through me. I'll definitely get a hold of him, and we'll make some connections. What do you got, Chef?
We're moving down the street. The VTRC, the Veterans Transition Resource Center, new address is 2301 East Sunset Road, Suite 3. And if there's any veterans or any volunteers, you want to have a servant heart and work with the rest of us, we're moving Friday from 9 to about 3 in the afternoon. And we got trucks, and we just need some bodies to help, helping hands. The more hands, the easier it is on everybody.
Yeah, great stuff, Chef. Hey, thanks a lot. And hey, again, make sure you're safe. This is a new year. 2025 is closing out into 2026. Hey, I hope everybody has a great, happy new year. Thanks to Brian Colburn for making this happen. If you need help with your PTSD, look up the PTSD Foundation of America. They got warrior groups almost every single night, family groups as well. Check into that. And the Warrior Built Foundation, if you want to get into the vocational recreational support and do some stuff with Warrior Built. They got some really good action stuff going on. There's so many great programs. I just signed up for a Big Fish Foundation event that's going to kick off sometime in March. So if you want to look at something like that, check out the Big Fish Foundation, Recon Chief Incorporated. There's so many other great organizations. You got any you want to throw out there, Chef? Feel free to throw out any.
No, that's
there's so many, so many great organizations. You got the VTRC, the Veterans Transition Resource Center. So until next time, this is Aaron Seibert signing off. Strength and honor out.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.